It had been nearly 3 months since the crew of the Argonaut had crossed the edge of the solar system, venturing into uncharted space. The mission had started like any other long-term deep space exploration. Routine scans of nearby stars, mapping asteroids, and cataloging celestial phenomena. Captain Aaron Weiss was used to the monotony of these types of assignments. Most of the crew was too. But something about this mission felt different. Something that tugged at the back of Aaron's mind, a feeling he couldn't quite shake. The Argonaut was a state-of-the-art deep space exploration vessel, equipped with the most advanced technology humanity had ever developed. It was designed for missions like this, long, solitary voyages beyond the boundaries of known space, pushing further than any ship had gone before. But as the days stretched into weeks, the isolation of deep space began to take its toll on the crew. Even with the carefully planned rotations and the constant monitoring of the ship's AI systems, tensions were running high. There were the little things at first, snapping at each other during meals, long silences on the bridge. Aaron had seen this before, the psychological effects of isolation creeping into the minds of even the most seasoned crew members. But he kept those concerns to himself. They were professionals after all. They'd been trained for this. It wasn't until the signal came that Aaron realized something was truly wrong. It started as a faint blip on the communications console, something barely noticeable in the background of the ship's regular scans. Lieutenant Elena Moreau, the ship's communications officer, was the first to detect it. She spent hours running diagnostics, trying to determine if it was just static or interference from a distant star. But as she continued to analyze the signal, something about it seemed deliberate. "I'm telling you, it's not just random noise," Elena insisted, standing in the captain's quarters with her tablet in hand. "It's repeating in a pattern. I've run every possible diagnostic, and I can't explain it." Aaron rubbed the back of his neck, glancing at the screen where the waveform of the signal pulsed rhythmically. It was faint, but it was there, hidden beneath the normal cosmic background noise. "Where is it coming from?" he asked, his voice low. "That's the strange part," Elena said, her brow furrowed. "It's coming from deep space, beyond any known system. There's nothing out there, no planets, no stars. Just the void." Aaron's stomach tightened. The void. That vast, empty expanse beyond the solar system where even the most advanced sensors could barely detect anything. It was the great unknown, the final frontier of human exploration. But it was also a place that filled him with a deep, inexplicable sense of dread. "Could it be an echo?" he asked, trying to sound more confident than he felt. "Something bouncing off an asteroid or debris field?" Elena shook her head. "I thought about that, but the signal is too regular. It's like something is broadcasting it intentionally." Aaron stared at the waveform for a long moment before finally nodding. "All right, let's bring the senior crew together and figure out our next move." The briefing room was quiet as the senior officers of the Argonaut gathered around the table. The usual banter and casual conversation had been replaced by a tense silence as the crew reviewed the data Elena had presented. Aaron stood at the head of the table, his arms crossed over his chest as he watched their reactions. Dr. Katia Ivanova, the ship's chief science officer, was the first to speak. "It's certainly unusual," she said, her voice calm but measured. "But I don't see any immediate danger. It could be a natural phenomenon we've never encountered before. After all, we're in uncharted space. Or it could be a distress signal," Commander Mark Taylor interjected. "Something or someone could be out there, trying to reach us." "That's a stretch," said Lieutenant Commander Samir Patel, the ship's engineer. "There's no record of any missions or probes sent this far. If someone's out there, we'd know about it." Aaron listened as the discussion unfolded, each officer offering their opinion on the signal. But as the debate continued, he couldn't shake the feeling that there was something they were missing, something more than just the technical details of the transmission. Finally, he held up a hand to stop the conversation. "Whatever it is, we need more information," he said. "We'll alter course and head toward the source of the signal. If it's nothing, we'll turn back and resume our mission. But if there's something out there, we need to find out what." There was a murmur of agreement around the table, though Aaron could see the uncertainty in their eyes. They were all trained for the unknown, But this was different. This was the void. The Argonaut adjusted its course, heading toward the coordinates Elena had traced for the signal. As the ship moved deeper into the void, the sense of unease among the crew grew. The signal, once faint and distant, became stronger, more distinct. It was still repeating the same steady pulse, but now it almost sounded like a whisper. Elena sat at her console, her fingers flying over the controls as she adjusted the filters on the signal. "I've isolated the transmission," she said, her voice tense. "It's clearer now." Aaron stood behind her, his eyes fixed on the screen. "Play it." For a moment, there was only static. Then, slowly, a sound began to emerge from the noise. It was faint, but unmistakable, a low, whispering voice, speaking in a language none of them could understand. The bridge fell silent as the crew listened to the eerie sound. It was like nothing they had ever heard before, a voice that seemed to come from the depths of space itself, ancient and unknowable. "What the hell is that?" Mark muttered, leaning forward in his chair. "I don't know," Elena said, her voice barely above a whisper. "But it's definitely not natural." Katia frowned, her eyes narrowing as she studied the waveform on the screen. "It's not just a signal," she said slowly. "It's alive." Aaron's heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean?" "I mean, it's responding to us," Katia said, her voice growing more urgent. "It's changing, adapting to our sensors. It's like it knows we're listening." Aaron stared at the screen, his mind racing. This wasn't just a signal. This was something more, something intelligent. "We need to shut it down," Samir said suddenly, his voice sharp. "We don't know what we're dealing with. It could be a threat." "No," Aaron said firmly. "We can't shut it down. Not yet. We need to understand what this is. We need answers." But as the days passed, the whispers grew louder, more insistent. The crew began to hear them even when the signal wasn't playing. Faint, disembodied voices that seemed to echo through the halls of the ship. At first, they dismissed it as their minds playing tricks on them, the stress of deep space getting to them. But soon, the whispers became impossible to ignore. Elena was the first to crack. "I can't take it anymore," she said, her voice shaking as she sat in Aaron's quarters. Her eyes were bloodshot, dark circles etched beneath them. "I hear it all the time now. When I sleep, when I'm alone in my cabin. It's always there." Whispering, Aaron leaned forward, concern etched on his face. "Elena, you need rest. The isolation, the pressure of the mission, it's getting to all of us." But she shook her head violently. "No, you don't understand. It's not just me. It's the signal. It's inside my head." Aaron felt a chill run down his spine. He had been hearing the whispers too, but he had convinced himself it was just stress. Now, hearing Elena say it out loud, he wasn't so sure. The crew of the Argonaut was unraveling. Over the next few days, more of the crew reported hearing the whispers. It wasn't just a trick of the mind. The signal was affecting them, getting inside their heads, warping their thoughts. Tensions on the ship reached a breaking point as paranoia set in. Every creak of the hull, every flicker of the lights, was met with suspicion and fear. Katia, normally the most composed of the crew, was the next to succumb. She had been running tests on the signal, trying to decode its meaning, but now she spent hours locked in her lab, muttering to herself, scribbling frantic notes that made no sense. "They're trying to tell us something," she said one evening, her voice low and feverish as she stood in the middle of the lab. "They're reaching out, trying to communicate. We just need to listen." Aaron tried to reason with her, but it was no use. The signal had taken hold of her mind, and there was no way to break through. The whispers had become a part of her, just as they were becoming a part of everyone on the ship. Finally, Aaron made the decision he had been dreading. "We need to leave," he said during a tense meeting with the remaining senior crew. "We'll turn the ship around, get back to known space. Whatever this is, we can't handle it alone." But it was too late. As the Argonaut prepared to turn back, the signal reached its peak. The ship's systems began to fail, the lights flickering as the power fluctuated. The whispers, once faint and distant, now filled the ship, loud and overwhelming. The crew could hear them everywhere, an incessant, maddening drone that drove them to the brink of insanity. And then, in the heart of the void, something answered. The ship shook violently, alarms blaring as the hull groaned under the pressure of some unseen force. Aaron struggled to keep his balance as he raced to the bridge, his heart pounding in his chest. The air was thick with static, the voices louder than ever. "Elena, what's happening?" he shouted as he reached the command console. Elena, her hands trembling, turned to him with wide, terrified eyes. "It's here. Whatever was sending the signal. It's here." Aaron looked out the viewport, his breath catching in his throat. Outside, the void seemed to shift and twist, as though reality itself were warping around them. And then, slowly, a shape began to emerge from the darkness. It was massive, far larger than the Argonaut, its form barely visible against the blackness of space. It was unlike anything Aaron had ever seen, an ancient, monstrous presence that defied comprehension. Its surface shimmered with an unnatural light, and as it moved, the whispers grew louder, more frantic. "We need to go," Aaron shouted, his voice barely audible over the noise. But it was too late. The ship lurched violently as the entity reached out, its form enveloping the Argonaut in a suffocating embrace. The whispers became deafening, filling Aaron's mind with images, thoughts, and memories that weren't his own. He tried to fight it, tried to hold on to his sanity, but the force was too strong. The void consumed him, pulling him deeper into the unknown. And then there was nothing. When Aaron opened his eyes, the Argonaut was gone. He stood alone in the void, surrounded by darkness, the whispers now a distant hum in the back of his mind. The entity loomed before him, vast and unknowable, its presence both terrifying and awe-inspiring. He didn't know how long he had been there, or if he was even still alive. Time had no meaning in the void. There was only the entity, the whispers, and the endless, suffocating darkness. And then the whispers spoke one final word. "Welcome."